Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to your safe space. I'm glad you're here. I'm PK, Pastor Kevin, coming at you on Spiritual Awakenings. I have a video on this channel that I would love for you to watch. It's called What's Meant to Be Will Find a Way. You will find it very encouraging. Today is my birthday, and that video is the story of how I came to be born. To make a long story short, my parents tried for about 10 years to have a child after a series of no conceptions, conceiving, miscarriage, stillborn, another miscarriage. My mother said, perhaps we should try to adopt instead. And my father said, no, let's try a little longer. And if we can't conceive and have a child, then we'll adopt. And they tried a little longer, and then they conceived me and had me. And if my father had not said, no, let's not go to adoption right now, let's try a little longer, then I wouldn't be here. So what's meant to be will find a way. I was meant to be. There are things in your life that you are meant to do. Somebody on my channel asked me to give more examples. A wonderful friend asked me made that request. So I want to share what's meant for you will find you. Okay. Many years ago, I began attending a non-denominational charismatic church. I was single, I was 23. I was looking for a girlfriend. I made friends with somebody older than me named Connie. Connie and I became friends. Now, Connie told me that she was the manager of a lawyer's title company. One day she said, Kevin, I've got a new employee named Jean. Jean is a young Christian girl, and I think you two would hit it off. I said, great. So Jean and I had a blind lunch date, and we hit it off. And we went out that night, and we went out again and again and again. And she became my wife. And it occurs to me that if I had not gone to that church, which I left after a couple of years, I'm no longer at that church. That was many, many years ago. That was 1993. If I had not begun attending that church and made friends with that person who was the boss of my future wife, then I would have never found my future wife. So what's meant for you will come to you. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. As long as you're asking and seeking and knocking, you're going to find what's meant for you. I'm going to find what's meant for me. My now wife, Jean, she and I dated for a year and a half, and then we broke up. Things that didn't work out. She went her way, I went my way. And she actually moved to a whole other state, a 14-hour drive from where I live. And so we were done, over with. She went 14 hours away, and I lived where I lived. I lived where I live now. About 3.5 years later, when I was finishing up my graduate school to become a pastor, I got a phone call from her. We began talking. And we talked some more, and pretty soon we began to fall back in love with each other. And I tell this story because in graduate school, I had a different girlfriend. I had moved on. I was with somebody else. I was not even thinking about going back to my past and going back to my former girlfriend. But I prayed a whole lot. I prayed, sought God, wanted God's will, asked for God's best. And between the fall of 1998 and the summer of 1999, she she and I began to fall back in love and make plans for a future. So I proposed in August of 1999. We got married in January 2000. 2000, and obviously, since this is 2024, almost 2025, we will be married for 25 years this January. But what was meant for me came to me, and what is meant for you will come to you. Now, you can put roadblocks and stumbling blocks in the way. If you're always negative, if you're not putting yourself out there, if you're talking with strong emotion that it's not going to work out, it's the same old, here we go again, all I ever have is broken relationships. If you keep talking negative with emotion, yeah, you will hinder God's best for your life. But if you're talking faith, it's going to work out, and trusting it will work out, and being optimistic and being having some faith and hope and taking action, what's meant for you will find you, guaranteed. More examples. I've been in my current church now for 17 years. During about year 3, my church began to get a vision for expanding their building. But we didn't have the funds. You know how that goes. It's expensive. We prayed, and the Lord directed a man to leave us an estate bequest in an inheritance of over $1 million. So then we had the funds, obviously. But we didn't have anybody in our church who knew how to be a building project manager. Suddenly, a couple came to our church named Dane and Sue. D-A-N-E, Dane. I called him Great Dane. Great Dane, as I called him, had lots of experience being the building manager of many buildings in the town where I live. He agreed to be the building project manager of a building expansion program at our church. Long story made short, we got the blueprints, the engineering plans all ready. The building was built, and my man Dane oversaw the entire thing. He was the foreman. He was the supervisor, I should say. The building was built. We have new classrooms, big industrial kitchen, an all-purpose room, lots more needed space. When it was all done, project and building over, about a year later, he left to go back to West Virginia to be with his mom, who was getting sick and needed him. But Dane and his wife were with us for the exact time that we needed him to be our building project manager. What's meant for you will come to you. I didn't know who he was. I didn't pray for him to come into our lives and into our church. I prayed for somebody, God's best. We kept hoping, believing, and praying and staying optimistic and positive, and God brought who we needed. Who we needed when we needed him. That happened over and over again. Recently, my finance secretary, who is 86, said that it's time for her to step down from being our finance secretary in our church, which makes sense given her age, but I wasn't sure who would do it, who would take the job. So one Sunday morning, I was beginning our worship service, which is online as well as in person. And during announcements, I said, it's time for our current finance secretary to step down because she's 86 and wanting to move on and let somebody else do it. And I described the job, what it entails. And I said, if anyone is interested in doing a part of the job or all of the job, let me know. Just then, someone I knew popped up on the video live stream. I'll call her Carolyn. Carolyn used to come to our church, used to live here. She sold her property and moved away, but she kept the connection by watching on the live stream every Sunday for church. Carolyn pops up in the comment section of the live stream and says, I'm moving back to where you are. I'm going to come back to church and I will do the finance secretary position. Now, that was unexpected. I thought when she sold her property where our church is and moved away, I thought we would never see her again. I thought I would only see her on the live stream on Sundays. Never even thought about her moving back, but God knew. And the phrase is true, God will make a way where you can't see a way. You know, when Moses and the Israelites came to the edge of the sea, God said, be still, fear not, for I will fight on your behalf. And God said more things to Moses. God didn't actually tell Moses, lift up your staff and I will part the sea. God didn't tell Moses and the Israelites exactly how he would deliver them. God just promised to deliver them. So there are many other examples of that. My youngest daughter met her fiance at a gym. He was working there for a while. My daughter began working there. And when she began working there, they both began talking. They both began flirting. And pretty soon they fell in love. He actually lives 3 hours away. And because, through a long story, he had to leave that job and go back to his original home 3.5 hours away. But they were in love and their relationship began. He kept driving in to see her. He drove 3.5 hours weekend after weekend after weekend to date her. And if they had not both gotten a job at the same gym, same health club, they wouldn't be together. But their personalities are so compatible, they are meant for each other. And they came together because it was meant to be in God's design. She is God's best for him. He is God's best for her. What's meant for you will find you. And again, if she had not got a job at that gym, and there are many gyms and health clubs in our town, she would have never met him because his original home is 3.5 hours away. In fact, my wife, when I first met her and had that blind lunch date, I forgot to mention, she lived 40 minutes away. 40. Now that's not too far away, but the point is, I would never have met her if we didn't have a mutual friend in common. If I had not began attending that particular non-denominational charismatic church, when I was never non-denominational before I began attending that church. If I had not gone to that church for about 3 years, if I had not become a friend to that person, Connie, then I wouldn't have met Connie's employee who became my future wife. So I can give lots of examples of what's meant for you will find you. So keep an open mind and open heart. Don't give in to resentment and cynicism and a negative, lackadaisical, ho-hum attitude. Well, I've tried for so long and it hasn't happened yet, so I don't think it will happen. If you have that kind of attitude, you're going to stay stuck. But if you have an open mind, and you don't have to believe in God exactly the way I do, that's not necessary. What is necessary is what Jesus said. Ask, but don't just ask. Seek, go after, and knock. That means take opportunities. Keep putting yourself out there. Don't talk with emotion. It's not going to happen. Here we go again. My life is same old, same old. Nothing will ever change. What's the point? You talk like that, you are keeping yourself in your own self-imposed prison. But if you will talk, it's going to happen. I believe it will. I think it will. It's going to happen in the right time. I don't know when. I don't have to know when or who or where. It'll all work out, and it will. I guarantee you it will. Over and over again, it will. My church many years ago had a hard time paying their bills. They had an insurance bill come due that they couldn't pay for. They thought, what are we going to do? Grown men cried in that finance committee meeting. They prayed together in tears. Suddenly, a business owner who owns a fireworks business asked to use our property, which is outside the city limits, to sell fireworks. Obviously, once a year at the end of June and towards July 4th. And the finance committee chairperson asked him, are you willing to enter into a contract? He said yes. And he asked the man, are you willing to give us a down payment? And the fireworks owner said, yes, I will. And they got together, and the fireworks business owner came to the meeting and gave my finance committee a check for the exact amount that they needed to pay that month's insurance bill. It all came together with synchronicity. So believe it for your own life. You deserve the best. You deserve to prosper and be blessed in every area of your life. So keep an open mind, open heart, ask, seek, knock, relax your mind, talk optimism, be positive. It's going to work out. I'll find the right one. Only a matter of time. The ones before in my past must not have been meant to be, must not have been the best for me. I'm going to find the best. My best job, my best career, my best mate. You keep talking like that and putting yourself out there, and what's meant for you will come for you and will come into your life. What's meant to be will find a way. What's meant for you will come to you. Guaranteed.